Pause for a moment. Before the next "I'm sorry" escapes your lips, there's something you need to understand, something that will permanently shift how you view respect, confidence, and human power. Be honest with yourself. Do you apologize even when you're not in the wrong? Do you use sorry as a peace offering just to keep things calm? Do you believe it makes you noble, mature, emotionally intelligent? If so, prepare to confront a truth that will challenge everything you've been taught about decency and self respect. The world has conditioned you to believe that saying sorry is virtuous, that it builds character, earns admiration, and strengthens relationships. But that's a lie wrapped in good intentions. Each unnecessary apology you make isn't an act of kindness. It's a quiet surrender. Every "I'm sorry" you utter when it's unearned is a small piece of your dignity dropped at someone else's feet. And over time, those fragments pile up until there's nothing left of your presence, only compliance. Centuries ago, Niccolo Machiavelli observed this very pattern. He watched powerful rulers crumble not because they lacked strategy, but because they confused humility with weakness. He saw kind-hearted people crushed under the boots of those who mistook their apologies for submission. And he realized something brutal yet undeniable. When power senses hesitation, it devours it. Today, you're about to learn the hidden cost of constant apologies, how every unnecessary sorry drains your authority, how people exploit it rather than respect it, and how to reclaim the power you've been unknowingly giving away. This isn't about becoming arrogant or cruel. It's about learning the difference between owning responsibility and offering submission, between strength that acknowledges mistakes and weakness that seeks approval. Because when you apologize without intention, you're not resolving conflict. You're training others to see you as lesser. Let's get something clear. The world doesn't reward endless humility. It rewards presence. It rewards the ones who move with certainty, who stand their ground, who claim space as if it already belongs to them, because it does. That's why, from this moment forward, I want you to internalize one simple truth. I own my power. Write it, say it, live it. Because when you understand what sorry really costs, you'll stop handing out your strength like spare change. The first brutal truth, the death of your presence. Every time you say, "I'm sorry," unnecessarily, something invisible withers inside you. Your posture changes, your energy shrinks, your spirit recoils. Watch your body next time you apologize without reason. Your shoulders slump, your chest tightens, your tone softens. You don't just sound smaller, you become smaller. That single phrase is like pressing mute on your own soul. You think you're being kind. You think you're showing consideration. But what you're actually doing is erasing your existence from the moment. You are telling the world, "I don't belong here." And the world listens. People see it in your movements, hear it in your voice, feel it in your energy. And once they sense that you've diminished yourself, they treat you accordingly, like background noise. You fade into the periphery of their attention, not because you lack worth, but because you keep announcing that you don't deserve to take up space. The tragedy? The world is filled with people trying to expand. Everyone's pushing outward, claiming more space, influence, recognition. But while they advance, you retreat. Every apology becomes an act of quiet self erasure. You're not just giving up words, you're giving up territory, physical, emotional, and psychological. When you apologize for existing, you make it easier for others to step over you, to dismiss you, to forget you. You're teaching them how to treat you as someone who can be silenced, ignored, dominated. And the more you do it, the more they believe it. Machiavelli once warned that it is safer to be respected than to be loved, not feared in the sense of terror, but in the sense of regard, because love without respect is pity, and pity kills authority. When you over apologize, you trade respect for comfort. You make others feel at ease by making yourself irrelevant. Stop doing that. You were not put here to shrink. You were not meant to beg for permission to exist. Your presence has weight. Act like it. From now on, claim your space. Say it with me. I claim my space. The second truth, the hunger you feed. Here's the psychological reality most people never grasp. When you apologize unnecessarily, you don't bring peace, you breed hunger. Each apology gives the other person a small taste of dominance. It tells their subconscious mind, you win, I yield. And that feeling, that rush of superiority, is addictive. When you say sorry for something that doesn't require it, you're giving them a dopamine hit, the same chemical reward the brain releases after victory. They might not even realize it, but their mind starts chasing that sensation again. And soon, they begin to look for reasons to make you feel guilty, not because they're cruel, but because they crave that same emotional reward. Watch how the people you over apologize to often become the ones most easily offended by you. That's not coincidence. That's conditioning. You've trained them to equate being upset with power. Their brain learned the formula. If I act hurt, they apologize. When they apologize, I feel strong. You have unknowingly made yourself their emotional supplier, the source of their psychological high. And like any addiction, it escalates. What started as one apology turns into a pattern. They keep finding new things to forgive you for, new moments to remind you of your supposed flaws. You end up living in a cycle of submission, not because you're wrong, but because you've been conditioned to believe peace only exists when you bow. And here's the cruelest twist. The more you apologize, the more they resent you. They'll start to believe you should apologize, that your repeated sorry means you're constantly doing something wrong. Over time, they'll see you not as kind, but as weak. And once someone perceives you as weak, the dynamic changes permanently. You become their emotional punching bag, their safe outlet for superiority. Machiavelli once noted that people are simple. They obey the needs of the moment. And right now, you are their momentary need, the person they dominate to feel alive. The only way to end that toxic loop is to stop supplying their fix. Don't apologize when you've done nothing wrong. Let them sit in their discomfort. Let them face their own emotions without using your guilt as fuel. Yes, they'll push back. Yes, they'll accuse you of being cold, distant, heartless. But what's really happening is withdrawal. They're losing the power they once got from your submission, and they'll fight to reclaim it. Stay strong. The silence you hold will starve the dependency. Drop this truth into your mind. I starve weakness. The third truth, the permanent record. Your apologies don't vanish after you speak them. They stay, etched into memory like ink that never fades. Every "I'm sorry" becomes evidence in the unspoken court of public perception. People don't remember what happened. They remember how they felt about it. And apologies, no matter how sincere, create an emotional memory. You were at fault. You were lesser. You were the one who had to bow. Even if you were apologizing for something small, being late, misspeaking, or a misunderstanding, the imprint left behind is not "you care." It's "you're unreliable." Think about it. The coworker who never apologizes for being late is seen as busy, maybe important. You, on the other hand, apologize once, and suddenly you're unorganized. Human minds are storytellers. They connect the dots, and every apology you make becomes another dot in the story of your supposed incompetence. You apologize for a mistake at work. They mark you as inconsistent. You apologize for expressing an opinion. They mark you as insecure. Each sorry becomes a stone in the foundation of your reputation, building an identity you never intended to have. The person who's always at fault. And here's where it gets even more dangerous. These impressions don't remain separate incidents. They merge. Your apology for being late merges with your apology for a project error merges with your apology for offending someone who just didn't like your truth. Suddenly, you're branded. You become the apologizer, the one who's always wrong, always soft, always bending. It doesn't matter how capable you are or how many times you succeed. Those apologies carry more emotional weight than your victories. This is why silence can sometimes be stronger than words. Confident silence says, I hear you, but I stand by my actions. It demands reflection, not dominance. Meanwhile, a quick sorry ends the conversation, but buries your authority. You think you're keeping peace, but you're really keeping people's misperceptions alive. You're preserving their illusion of superiority at the cost of your own image. So ask yourself, how many times have you apologized out of habit, not accountability? How often have you said sorry just to make others comfortable, even when you had every right to stand tall? You've been conditioned to think humility earns respect, but humility without boundaries earns exploitation. The truth beneath it all, you don't have to stop being kind. You just need to stop being submissive. There's a difference between taking responsibility and taking blame. One strengthens you, the other destroys you. Strategic acknowledgement sounds like, I see where this could have gone wrong, and I'll improve. Desperate apology sounds like, I'm so sorry. Please don't be mad. One commands respect, the other invites control. Machiavelli's wisdom wasn't about cruelty, it was about clarity. He understood that people don't respect words, they respect consistency, confidence, and the quiet certainty of someone who knows their worth. So the next time you feel that instinct to say sorry for something that doesn't warrant it, stop, breathe, ask yourself, am I owning this moment or am I surrendering it? Your power is not in how often you apologize, it's in how deliberately you choose your words. Your respect won't come from being endlessly understanding, it will come from being unshakably certain. You don't owe the world 1,000 apologies for existing. You owe yourself one promise. Never again will I shrink to make others comfortable. Say it one last time and mean it. I own my power. I claim my space. I starve weakness. From this moment on, you're no longer the person who apologizes for breathing. You are the person who walks into any room and knows you belong there. Before you let another, I'm sorry, slip from your lips, stop and take a deep breath, because what I'm about to share will completely reshape how you understand power, respect, and self-worth. Have you ever noticed how easily those words fall out of your mouth, even when you've done nothing wrong? Maybe you say them just to keep peace, to ease tension, or to make others comfortable. Maybe you believe that saying sorry makes you noble, humble, or emotionally mature. But what if I told you that every one of those apologies has been quietly dismantling your confidence brick by brick? What if I told you that you've been trading away your strength, one sorry at a time, without even realizing it? Society has fed you a comforting lie that apologizing earns respect, that being the first to admit fault shows character. But the truth is far darker. Every unnecessary apology is a small act of self erasure. It's not peace you're creating, it's submission. And submission never inspires respect, it only invites exploitation. Centuries ago, Niccolo Machiavelli observed the same painful truth. He studied rulers who apologized often and watched them lose their thrones, their allies, and their dignity. He saw kind-hearted people destroyed by those who used their guilt against them. The lesson was simple but brutal. In the game of human power, apologies are currency, and the moment you start spending them freely, your value collapses. Today, I want to show you the hidden cost of saying sorry, how it rewires how others see you, and worse, how it changes how you see yourself. Because this habit doesn't just damage your relationships, it destroys your presence, your influence, and your internal strength. Let's begin with what I call the quiet erasure. Every time you say, I'm sorry, a small part of you vanishes. You think you're being considerate, that you're showing kindness, but your body tells another story. Your shoulders slump, your voice lowers, your gaze drops. You physically shrink, signaling submission. What you may not notice is that this physical act sends a deep message to your subconscious. I don't deserve to stand tall here. People sense it too. They feel your self minimization and they start responding to you as though you matter less. Not because they're cruel, but because that's how power dynamics naturally work. People respect confidence and overlook those who constantly yield. Before long, you're not just overlooked, you're forgotten. You start to feel invisible, wondering why no one values your voice, never realizing you trained them not to. Every apology you offer without reason is an invitation for someone else to step on your energy. You think you're being kind, but what you're really doing is making it easy for others to dominate. They expand while you contract. They speak louder while you whisper, and soon the balance of respect is gone. You've handed them permission to treat you like background noise. And the worst part, they'll never consciously know why. They'll just feel that you're the one who should yield. Machiavelli wrote that it is safer to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both. But fear doesn't have to mean cruelty. It means presence. It means you are felt. When you carry yourself with quiet confidence, when you stop apologizing for existing, people pause before crossing you. They think twice before dismissing you. They listen. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. You deserve to exist without permission. You deserve to hold your space without shrinking for others' comfort. Say this to yourself right now. I claim my space. But there's another, more dangerous effect. Something that explains why you might feel drained after every unnecessary apology. Let's call it the hunger you feed. When you apologize, you're not satisfying someone's sense of fairness. You're giving them a taste of control. Psychologically, it releases a hit of dopamine in their brain, a feeling of power. That power is addictive. The next time they feel upset, they'll subconsciously crave that same rush again. How do they get it? By pushing you into another apology. Without realizing it, you've trained them to associate conflict with the pleasure of dominating you. And soon, they'll start finding reasons, tiny, absurd reasons, to be offended. It's not coincidence, it's conditioning. You've become the emotional supplier for their ego. Every apology feeds their addiction. Every sorry is a transaction where they gain and you lose. The cruel irony, you think you're maintaining harmony, but you're actually deepening dependence. You're teaching them that your surrender is their peace. And they'll keep chasing that high until you're completely depleted. The only cure for this dynamic is starvation. Stop feeding the pattern. Let their discomfort rise. Let them sit with the silence. True strength isn't in appeasing, it's in withholding the drug of your submission. Now, let's talk about something most people never realize until it's too late: your permanent record. Every apology you make is a data point that shapes how people perceive you. The human brain doesn't record events, it records narratives. So when you say, I'm sorry I was late, no one remembers your accountability. They remember this person is unreliable. When you apologize for a minor mistake at work, they don't think, how humble. They think, this person messes up. Each apology becomes an entry in a mental file called evidence of failure. And over time, that file becomes the story of who you are. You might have been competent 99% of the time, but that 1% when you apologize becomes the emotional anchor that defines you. Meanwhile, someone else makes more mistakes but never apologizes. Their record stays clean. They're seen as bold, decisive, confident. Do you see the difference? It's not about truth. It's about perception. And perception is reality in the eyes of others. You've been documenting your own weakness with your own words. Years later, that file doesn't disappear. People might forget the reasons, but they'll remember how you made them feel: submissive, sorry, small. You could grow stronger, change your habits, and reclaim your power, but they'll resist seeing it because their memory of you says you're the apologizer, the soft spoken one, the person who yields. Rewriting that story is possible, but it takes silence, consistency, and time. Every moment you refuse to apologize unnecessarily, you begin writing your record. So say this now: I rewrite my story. Let's move to something even darker: the blame magnet effect. Humans are wired to offload guilt. When things go wrong, our minds instantly search for someone to blame. And guess who stands out? The one who's always sorry. Every time you apologize, you label yourself as the responsible one. And soon, that label turns into a target. When chaos erupts, you're the easiest person to blame, not because you caused it, but because everyone knows you'll accept it quietly. You've made yourself the emotional lightning rod for others' mistakes. Blame, like gravity, follows the path of least resistance. And you've become that path. You've built a pattern where everyone around you assumes you'll take responsibility, even when you shouldn't. Then, when you finally stand your ground and refuse to apologize, people react with outrage. Why aren't you saying sorry? You always do, because you've broken the pattern and they don't like it. You've been their convenient scapegoat for so long that your refusal feels like rebellion. But let them squirm. Their discomfort isn't your problem. It's their awakening. Here's what's truly twisted. The more you apologize, the more people expect it. The less you apologize, the more they accuse you of arrogance. But understand this, the only way to escape is to let them be uncomfortable. Let them confront their own faults without your apology as a cushion. You are not responsible for protecting people from accountability. You are not a dumping ground for other people's emotional mess. From this moment forward, repeat after me. I deflect blame. And now, the final revelation, the one that exposes the ugliest truth about human nature, the forgiveness trap. You think that when someone says, I forgive you, peace has been restored. But often, that's not what's happening. In many cases, they're not releasing your mistake, they're archiving it. They're quietly storing it away like ammunition for future conflicts. Later, when you're in a disagreement, they'll reach into that archive and say, remember when you apologized for that thing? Suddenly, your past humility becomes their current weapon. You believed you were closing a wound, but what you really did was hand them a knife they could use later. It's not real forgiveness, it's suspended judgment. It's peace held hostage. The moment they need to win, they'll bring it back up, smiling as they use your old apology as proof that you're flawed. And if you've apologized multiple times over the years, congratulations. You've given them an entire arsenal. Some people even provoke apologies just to collect them. They crave the feeling of moral superiority, of being the forgiving one. Every I forgive you feeds their ego. Every sorry from you becomes a new chain wrapped around your neck, and you'll stay bound until you realize the truth. Forgiveness from manipulators is never a gift, it's leverage. Machiavelli once warned that people remember injuries more vividly than kindness. Your apologies are those injuries to yourself. Small cuts that bleed you dry over time. They seem harmless, but they accumulate until you're buried under the weight of your own remorse. You must choose, right now, to stop feeding the archive. Stop offering ammunition. Stop saying sorry just to restore comfort that shouldn't have been lost in the first place. Here's your final truth. Every apology writes a chapter in a story about who you are. Every I'm sorry shapes how people see you, how they treat you, and how you see yourself. But you hold the pen. You can rewrite your record starting today. Stand tall when you speak. Take responsibility only when it's truly yours. Replace I'm sorry with strength, silence, or clarity. You owe no one an apology for your existence. Say this out loud. I own my power. I claim my space. I rewrite my story. I deflect blame. I refuse the trap. From this day forward, you no longer apologize out of habit. You act with intention. You stand in your truth, and you let the world adjust around you. Because power doesn't belong to the loudest voice. It belongs to the one who stops giving it away. ChatGPT said, absolutely. Here's a completely reworded 1500 plus word version of your script. Every sentence has been restructured, expanded, and refined while keeping the same message, emotion, and cinematic tone. The voice remains motivational, psychological, and philosophical, matching your original style and depth. There comes a point when even your thoughts begin to whisper doubt before you act. Maybe I shouldn't. I'll probably have to say sorry for it later. That's the echo in your head, the one that second guesses every choice before it's even made. You hesitate not because you lack ability, but because you've trained your mind to expect punishment for existing. You start filtering your every move through the lens of apology. Should I say this? Should I try that? What if I make a mistake and have to apologize again? That's the hidden cost of habitual apology. It rewires your mind to believe you're always at fault. Slowly, the foundation of your self-belief begins to erode. The flame of conviction, the part of you that once stood firm in truth, starts to dim. And when that inner light fades, you're left wandering through your own life as a shadow of who you were meant to be. You still speak, but your voice no longer carries weight. You still act, but every action seeks permission. You still exist, but you no longer believe you have the right to. You begin apologizing for simply taking up space, for having emotions, for wanting something. for breathing too loudly in rooms that taught you silence was safety. You transform into a ghost in your own story, visible yet unseen, alive yet muted. You convince yourself that peace comes from shrinking, that humility means submission. But what you've really done is surrender the sacred fire that makes you human. Confidence isn't about swagger or noise. It's the quiet certainty that you belong. It's the unshakable awareness that your ideas matter and that you deserve to stand where you are. Every unnecessary apology chisels away at that foundation. Every "I'm sorry" uttered out of fear becomes a vote cast against yourself, a subtle signal that says, I don't trust my worth. And your mind listens. It records. It rewrites. Eventually, your brain starts believing its own lie, that maybe you truly are flawed beyond repair. That's how people don't just lose confidence, they dismantle it, piece by piece, over years. Not from one major tragedy, but through thousands of small surrenders, through decades of sorries offered to keep others comfortable, through constant bending until your spine forgets how to stand straight. And when that inner fire finally dies out, reigniting it feels impossible. You forget what it ever felt like to burn. You watch people who radiate certainty and mistake them for being different kinds of people. You tell yourself, I could never be like that. But the truth is, you were like that once, before you dimmed yourself, before you silenced your passion in exchange for approval, before you traded your flame for acceptance. Niccolo Machiavelli once wrote, when the desire is strong, obstacles cannot be great. Your desire to apologize has been immense, and it's built mountains of hardship in your path. But desire can be redirected. The same intensity that drove you to over apologize can be transformed into the power that rebuilds your fire. This must change because living a life of endless apologies isn't living at all. It's a slow internal death, one that happens while you still breathe. Your spark is your lifeline. It's what gives meaning to your existence. Every time you apologize for being yourself, you pour water on that spark. Every time you back down to make others feel tall, you smother your own strength. It's time to reverse that, to rebuild, feed, and protect the flame within you like it's sacred, because it is. That fire is your courage, your truth, your identity. Feed it with moments of defiance. Feed it with choices that don't seek approval. Feed it with silence when others expect you to bow. Every act of unapologetic authenticity adds fuel to the blaze. And soon, that small spark you thought was gone will roar again, bright, fierce, alive. You'll remember what it feels like to exist without apology, to breathe without permission, to walk without guilt, to be without shame. Now speak this into existence. I reignite my fire, the power of strategic silence. All of this leads to one ultimate truth. The strongest response is often no response at all. We've been conditioned to believe silence equals weakness, that staying quiet means indifference, that withholding words makes you cold or unfeeling. But that's a lie designed to keep you docile. True power lives not in constant explanation, but in strategic silence. Strategic silence is the art of letting stillness speak for you. It's understanding that when you stop trying to fix everything, the truth begins to reveal itself. Most people rush to fill tension with words. The instant something feels uncomfortable, they scramble for an apology, thinking it will make things easier. But that awkwardness, that unease, it's not yours to solve. It belongs to those who created it. When you resist the impulse to apologize, the silence becomes a mirror. People are forced to look into it and confront their own reflection, their part in the chaos. That's unbearable for most. They'll try to pull you into the noise again. They'll prod you with guilt, poke you with pressure, hoping you'll fold and speak the words they expect. I'm sorry, but this time you won't. You'll hold your ground. You'll let the silence stretch and thicken until the air trembles. You'll feel the discomfort, but you'll know it's not yours to carry. And then something powerful happens. Someone else breaks. Someone else speaks. Someone else apologizes. That's when the dynamic shifts. You're no longer the predictable scapegoat. The silence forces balance. It reveals truth. It demands accountability from everyone, not just you. Sometimes, no one even apologizes at all, and the problem resolves itself through action, not humiliation. Silence is not emptiness. It's fullness under control. It's a refusal to waste energy defending what doesn't need defense. It's strength in its purest form, the ability to stand unshaken while others crumble under the noise. Understand this. Strategic silence is not avoidance. It's not running away or hiding. It's mastery. It's awareness. It's knowing when your words add power and when they drain it. When acknowledgement is truly needed, you'll give it, not through pleading or justification, but through clarity. You'll state what happened. You'll state what's next. You'll move forward. No drama, no begging, no apologies for existing. But in most cases, silence is enough. Silence is the statement. Silence is the sword. Machiavelli once observed, the wise man acts at once what the fool acts at last. The foolish learn too late that endless apologies destroy them. The wise learn early that silence shields their strength. So practice this. When you feel that familiar urge to say, I'm sorry, stop. Ask yourself, am I really at fault or just afraid of tension? Most of the time, it's fear, not guilt, that drives your words, and fear doesn't deserve a voice. Stand still. Let the moment breathe. Let others face their reflection without you cushioning it for them. People will grow uneasy with your silence. They'll accuse you of arrogance. They'll say you've changed, and they'll be right. You have changed. You've stopped being their emotional janitor. You've stopped absorbing everyone else's discomfort. You've stopped being small. That's not cruelty. It's maturity. It's power reclaimed. From now on, your silence will speak louder than your apologies ever could. You will no longer use your words to shrink yourself. You'll use your silence to expand your strength because your silence is not absence. It's presence. It's energy. It's you standing tall in a storm, saying without words, I will not bow. Everything you've endured, every apology that chipped at your soul, every time you dimmed your own light, it all led here, to this choice, to this awakening. Will you keep apologizing your power away? Or will you finally stand in the quiet that commands respect? You don't have to be ruthless. You don't have to be cruel. But you must stop being your own executioner. Stop handing people the knife labeled, I'm sorry. Stop apologizing yourself into invisibility. From this day on, every time you feel the apology rising to your lips, pause. Ask, is this accountability or is this surrender? And if it's surrender, stay silent. Be deliberate. Be strong. Be unapologetic. Because the world will always try to shrink you. It will always reward your submission with temporary peace. But the cost of that peace is your power. So choose differently. Let silence be your armor. Let your fire be your weapon. Let your self-worth be your shield. Machiavelli understood the truth of life. It's not just a political battlefield, but a psychological one. And in this battlefield, those who always surrender never survive. You don't owe anyone an apology for existing. You don't owe anyone comfort for your strength. Say it now. I never apologize again. Remember this, when a world built on manipulation demands your submission, standing tall is rebellion. Refusing to shrink is power. Speaking without apology is freedom. Stop apologizing for who you are. Stop dimming your light to make others feel safe in the shadows. The age of shrinking ends here. The era of your power begins now.